Hi, my name is Sailor Mashburn, and I'm going to be talking about how American popular music has misappropriated American Indian culture. Native American culture has been historically misappropriated in American history, and its results are devastating to such a rich cultural history and are also highly offensive to all of those involved. White culture is usually the blame for this, but most of our American Caucasian ancestors did not have to fight for their lives to be able to just exist peacefully as themselves. Native Americans, however, had to do just that. They had to fight. They had to fight to keep their land, and when their land was taken by white colonizers, they had to fight against American assimilation. So, whenever people turn the stereotypical Indian into a costume, a song, a movie, or a joke, it further sets back our country in ways where most of us are trying to strive to improve upon. Native Americans have an extensive and inspiring past, and to offend such history cannot go unacknowledged. There are many ways to discuss the misappropriation of American Indian culture, but the most effective way would be able to discuss these effects that popular entertainment has on their culture. One of the most controversial songs regarding the misappropriation of Native American culture is Indian Outlaw by Tim McGraw. In this research paper, the song itself and its history will be discussed, and then a brief definition of terms regarding misappropriation will also be addressed and related back to the song or the entertainment industry itself. In 1994, country music star Tim McGraw released his first single from his new album called Indian Outlaw. This song blew up on the Hot 100 charts despite criticism from many Native American communities. They spoke on how this song had a very stereotypical tone and used a laundry list of media-created stereotypes about Native Americans. It also used pseudo-tribal beats and melodies associated with old Western movies. Tim McGraw received protest letters from the American Indian Movement president as well as letters of support from a vice chief of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. This song uses extreme stereotypes of Native Americans, using words from a mixing bowl of all of the different Native tribe characteristics. Some example of these lyrics include, "You can't find me in my wigwam, I'll be beaten on my tom-tom, pull out the pipe and smoke you some." Another one is, "'Cause I'm an Indian outlaw, half Cherokee and Choctaw, my baby, she's a Chippewa." These lyrics exemplify how Tim McGraw sang about what he thought was an innocent and catchy song, but it turned into an extreme insult to all of Native American history. The song took many important symbols of certain tribes, mashed them all together, and made some of them either sexual or comedic. The catchy song clearly gained popularity by most Americans that are insensitive to other cultures. However, to most, if not all of American natives, it was particularly offensive. There was also a music video where Tim McGraw plays two different characters. One is an Indian outlaw who rides a motorcycle and he's meeting up with his Chippewa girlfriend, and the other is a country singer in a bar and he's just surrounded by a bunch of country dancers. Surprisingly, Tim McGraw never wore any clothing that misappropriated the Native American culture, but his lyrics did enough damage on their own. Now, I would like to list a few terms involved in cultural misappropriation and relate them to American pop music songs such as Indian Outlaw, as well as other entertainment examples. The first term addressed will be singing red face. This refers to when a non-Native American person uses a racial stereotype or traits of a Native American person through their song. This can be compared to people practicing blackface or any other instance where a group of people are reduced to their stereotypical attributes. This is a textbook example of what happened in Tim McGraw's song. McGraw sang as if he were an Indian outlaw who is Cherokee and Choctaw, which he is neither, so that's not factual. The next important aspect in cultural misappropriation is racial antipathy. Antipathy means a strong dislike or hatred with no validating motive. So racial antipathy would be equivalent to that, but race against race. That would be a perfect exemplification of racism against African Americans during the 1900s and even up until today, unfortunately. This wasn't present in Tim McGraw's song, however, I'm certain that people with racial antipathy towards Native Americans enjoyed this song and its demeaning references towards a group of people that they despise. The next term would be idealized sympathy. An idealized sympathy is whenever pop culture portrays sympathy for a Native American parody or misrepresentation by using, again, stereotypical mannerisms, voices, or costumes. This is somewhat apparent in Indian Outlaw, but only in his lyrics because he did not dress inappropriately. However, other music fans have been guilty of showing idealized sympathy in the form of wearing costumes that are demeaning of our Native Americans' past. A Tribe Called Red, which we've researched earlier in the semester, had to reach out to their fans and request that some of their fans would stop showing up to their concert in red face attire. Fans were attending the events wearing headdresses, non-authentic costumes, and other offensive clothing. The band gave an interview asking for all non-Native American fans to please stop dressing in such attire and to stay respectful of the Native American culture. Another term at this point that we're very familiar with is cultural misappropriation. I'm sure cultural misappropriation happens every day against every culture in America. It can be inadvertent and sometimes it can be intentional. The direct definition of cultural misappropriation is the inappropriate adoption of the customs, practices, ideas of one society by members of another society. These actions can include clothing, music, history, appearances, and many more. The issue with cultural misappropriation is that it reduces the struggles in a culture that they have gone through to become advanced and rich in history as they are today, and they're instead turning those issues into a joke or a caricature. This recently happened on the campus of the University of Oklahoma, where a woman that was involved in a Panhellenic chapter posted a picture of her Halloween costume as Pocahontas. The picture of her in her red-faced costume attire went viral very quickly, and it came with a significant amount of backlash from the Norman Native American community. She, of course, took down the photo and released a statement apologizing for her lapse in judgment, but the lasting effects of cultural misappropriation are still significant for the community, as these issues happen very often here. This occurs in the song as well, Indian Outlaw, a countless number of times as well, just centered more around the idea of singing redface and not so much dancing in redface. Yet another term being analyzed is cultural confusion. Cultural confusion is the spread of misinformation regarding a certain culture or society. In this case, there is an immense amount of cultural confusion about Native Americans, and the entertainment industry is to blame for this issue. In the documentary, The Real Indian, they took a look at Hollywood Indians and explored the portrayal of Native Americans through a century of cinema. It is a very interesting documentary that shows how each era of film portrays Native American culture slightly differently, but almost all of the films culturally misappropriate them, which leads to more cultural confusion. The documentary was extremely informative and opened my eyes to how off the truth those box-off movies actually were. On a related note of misappropriation, the term under next analyzation is blackface minstrelsy. These was one of the first forms of entertainment in the American industry. It originated as just songs, plays, and stories and dances that were seen as entertainment for Americans. But it soon moved to being performed in blackface and essentially stripped Native or African Americans of their respectable culture and minimized them into comedic figures, made jokes of their songs and dances, and created fake stories about slavery, making it seem easy or slightly amusing. This is similar to singing in redface, in that it highlights racially insensitive characteristics while ignoring the actual history and rich culture of each group's identity. Lastly, the final term involved in cultural misappropriation is playing Indian. This is essentially when a non-Native American attempts to roleplay or pretend to be a Native American, while unfortunately most of the time using a cultural misappropriation of some sort and occasionally practicing this in redface. This action, while not always intentional, again reduces the culture to a mere parody. This exemplifies the performance we saw in Indian Outlaw by Tim McGraw in his music video. Although he wasn't dressed as a Native American, his mannerisms, lyrics, and storyline all proved him to be playing Indian, and it was again quite distasteful. So in conclusion, we as Caucasian Americans have no one to blame for the cultural misappropriation of Native Americans except ourselves. When we indulge in watching movies such as Pocahontas or The Last of the Mohicans, or we listen to Indian Outlaw, We join in support of such a ghastly entertainment genre that is offensive and it sets back our country in our efforts to treat all people with kindness and respect. However, as it is our fault for these stereotypical medias being spread, it's also our duty to put a stop to these belittling entertainment genres, and I believe that with dedication and compassion we can fix that. Thank you.